CBS News senior national security analyst Juan Zarate is on the phone with me now. Juan, what do you make of the downing of the Russian jet by Turkey?
Well, as Holly indicated, it's not a surprise that the Turks have responded this way. They had already warned Russia in the past. Russia had violated Turkish airspace, and I think the Turks were incredibly upset and angry about it, and so not wholly surprising. But the consequences are pretty dramatic here. It certainly will complicate the attempts by President Hollande and President Obama to unify the coalition against ISIS. It will further divide the factions that are dealing with the problems in Syria, and so you have the Iranian and Russian side of this, then the Turkish, American, and Western European elements of that divide will draw more starkly. It will complicate as well the debate over a no-fly zone or a safe zone that has been in the discussions around what to do about refugees and what to do next in the political process in Syria. And so this is a very volatile time, and it's a complicating flashpoint for what's happening in Syria and certainly the diplomacy around the coalition against ISIS.
What about Vladimir Putin specifically, Juan? What kind of effect do you think this will have on Putin and his approach to the region?
It's a great question, because this is really the first time in recent months where there has been a military pushback directly against Russian activities, albeit even if this was a Russian accident. Russia has been provocative in the Ukraine and Crimea, in the waters in Europe. They've been sort of pushing the envelope. And this is one instance in which Turkey or someone in opposition has bitten back. And so it's going to be interesting to see what Putin does, because he's clearly angry. He wants to respond, but how Russia decides to respond is going to be a very interesting test of what happens when Russia's bitten as they push the envelope, whether it's there in Syria or in places like the Ukraine and Crimea.
You know, President Obama, we just saw him meeting at the White House with the French President, Francois Hollande. You know, they pledged to work together, but there was no mention of any kind of change in strategy. What message does that send to Russia, to Bashar al-Assad, to other actors in the region in Syria?
Well, I think what the French president is trying to do is to both consolidate the coalition against ISIS, as well as to accelerate and give some urgency to the activities to disrupt ISIS. And I think no doubt he's gotten on this visit the sense of solidarity. There's no question that the U.S. and France are allied against ISIS. The question is whether or not the strategy will be amplified and whether or not there will be this urgency that the French president wants. And I'm not sure he's really gotten that from President Obama. I think President Obama has said that some of that acceleration will happen, but it's clear that the president isn't going to shift his strategy, and it's also clear that he's going to let the Vienna process, the political process to resolve what happens in Damascus, play out as well. And so it may not be a wholly satisfying visit for President Hollande, but he at least got the symbolic value of the solidarity of standing next to the American president and having the American public be in support of his actions.
Juan, as you know, ISIS has been releasing videos threatening attacks in the U.S., and now there is a new, highly produced ISIS propaganda video. Let's take a look.
America, you claim to have the greatest army history has known. You may have the numbers and weapons, but your soldiers lack the will and resolve. Still scarred from their defeats in Afghanistan and Iraq.
All right, Juan, what does this tell us about ISIS?
Well, we know that ISIS has a very well-developed, well-orchestrated media campaign. They know and read about what happens in the West, and they're engaged in not just a propaganda struggle, but also a psychological battle with the United States and the West. And they're trying to certainly demoralize their opponents, but also boost the morale of their own fighters. And so that explains what we see there, and certainly they're being attuned to what's happening in the West.
Juan Zarate for us, thank you so much.